everybody, and welcome in. It is the Wrestling Mat. If you're a Mat member, you're here even earlier than everybody else. Thank you for being with me here today. Thank you for always being with us here at the Wrestling Mat Show. Whoa, that's the wrong person. The WrestlingMatShow.com. There it is. You know all about it. Kind of a surprise early stream today. Hey, this is what happens. This is what you need to be aware of, because sometimes I make it happen that much quicker. That's what we're doing here today. A lot of content coming your way in the next 2 days here at the WrestlingMatShow.com. If you're a member, you are getting this show first and live at 11 a.m. Eastern on this Monday, September 30th. If you're not a Matt member and you went, wait, I could have gotten this earlier. I could have been talking to Matt in the comments. Yes, you could have, but you got to go be a member at the WrestlingMatShow.com. If you're watching, hit that join button down below. If you're listening after the fact, after we went live, if you're on the Believe Network, if you're listening to podcasts, thank you for doing so. And if you're not subscribed to the podcast, which you can do for free, please go head over to wherever you get your podcasts, because you can get this show for free in podcast form. Yes, in podcast form. Make sure you go subscribe, rate, review, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe for free at thewrestlingmatshow.com for all of our video content and become a member starting at just $2.99, as those watching live are. Everybody else getting this at 1 p.m. Eastern if you were watching at thewrestlingmatshow.com. But here's what we got going on today. 11 a.m. Eastern live for the members. At noon Eastern, we will react to Mr. McMahon Netflix Part 2. I did episodes 1 through 3 for the members last week, 4 through 6 coming up right after this at noon Eastern in a brand new stream. And then you'll get, for everybody else who did not watch it live, 1 p.m. Eastern. As always, on a weekday. Now, also another announcement to make. We are not doing Monday Night Raw watch-along tonight. I have decided NXT is bigger. We're going to watch that tomorrow. So NXT for the Mat members tomorrow right here at the WrestlingMatShow.com. If you want to be a part of that, you got to be a Mat member, and you got to be a Mat member before tomorrow night, because we are going to be watching NXT. So not watching Raw tonight, watching NXT tomorrow night for the NXT on CW debut. What's up to Nerdy Dude? What's up to Phil in the chat? Hit me up with your questions. Please leave your comments down below. Hit us up on social media at WrestlingMat23, at The Matt Camp. Love to get your comments, your thoughts. If there's an announcement, if there's something big going on about the show, it's going to be there first, so make sure you are following us on Instagram and on Twitter at WrestlingMat23, and follow me at The Matt Camp. So coming up on the show today, here's what we're going to get to. We're going to get to Shawn Michaels doing some media, talk to Sports Illustrated, talk to the Chicago Tribune. I believe as I'm doing this show right now, he's on Busted Open. About NXT to the CW. We're going to get into some comments he made on some potential big changes and bells and whistles. Also coming up on the show today, Swerve. I don't want to say it was caught, but there was a YouTube video where he was seen having a conversation, seemed to be pitching himself in AEW to someone, and mentioned Fox and AEW. We'll get into that and what it means. I have a new segment on the show. We're going to be doing this a little bit more often. I kind of do it anyway, but very specific here. It's called Matt Books. And what I will be booking is AJ Styles' return to SmackDown this Friday. That's coming up on the show in a little bit. And I'll be answering, acknowledging, and reading YouTube comments from our past videos. All coming up on the show today. And as Nerdy Dude mentioned, I have merch. We have merch here at the Wrestling Mat. ProWrestlingTees.com/The Wrestling Mat. Wrestling Mat shirts are up there right now. And if you're a Mat member, you get discounts on that. Head over to the membership tab at thewrestlingmatshow.com. Find out that discount code, which, by the way, only works on our merch. But certainly go peruse everything that they have at ProWrestlingTees.com. But make sure you go to ProWrestlingTees.com/The Wrestling Mat. Get your Wrestling Mat merch. Shirts available in multiple colors and multiple styles. Thank you for the shout-out, Nerdy Dude, and thanks to those who are joining us as always. Let's get into it. So let's talk about Shawn Michaels. I'm going to read basically from the articles. What's up to B May? Hello, how you doing? So Shawn Michaels, couple of media appearances, as you might guess, heading into the CW debut tomorrow night, Tuesday night, in Chicago. Selling okay, solid, 8,000 tickets, according to WrestleTix. Next week, St. Louis moved out of the big arena into a much smaller arena. Sounds like less than 2,000 tickets sold there. What a difference in 2 weeks there. Shawn Michaels spoke to the Chicago Tribune, calling, and here's his quote, "What you can expect is one of the best shows NXT has ever offered. Certainly, we want to make a big splash on the CW network. We'll have some big changes, but I think more of that will be from a look and a physical standpoint. We will still be what NXT is, which is bringing some of those talented, young, diverse athletes in all the nation and developing into the WWE superstars of tomorrow. The hunger, the passion, that's always been the core value of NXT is certainly going to be there, but certainly we'll try to put on some pretty cool bells and whistles for the CW launch on October 1st. Now, on the show already, Trick and Ethan Page for the NXT Championship, Punk's the referee. Roxanne Julia for the NXT Women's Championship. That opens the show. Wesley, Zach Wentz in a street fight. Lola Vice and Jada Parker versus 2 members of Fatal Influence. And Miz TV with Oba Femi and Tony D'Angelo. So what does Shawn Michaels mean by big changes, by the bells and whistles? I've been asking this question for quite some time. Not as much about this week and not as much about next week, but what the show looks like in 2 weeks. As far as I know, they'll be back where we always see NXT, at the Performance Center in Orlando. I expect a bigger setup when they're at the Allstate Arena tomorrow night. I expect a bigger setup, while not as big of arena, when they're in the St. Louis area next week on October 8th. But you'd have to think that the show will get a fresh coat of paint. Maybe the logo, maybe the set looks different. As you would expect. You want it to seem big. I mean, could they get new music? Could they get a new set? If they move the announcers around? Yeah, I would expect all of that. Once again, though, what it's going to look like in an arena versus what it's going to look like at the Performance Center are two different things. Because the Performance Center very much likely will be their home and their regular home. I would think the show will go on the road a little bit more. Perhaps, and this is an idea that seems to make sense to me, as much as they've had these premium live events and they've been standalone shows, they've also had, the Great American Bash or Halloween Havoc, and some stuff has been converted into PLEs and some stuff remains like TV specials over multiple weeks. I could see the TV specials going on the road. I could see them trying to sell that. And I think that makes sense. I don't think that the show would necessarily benefit from being on the road every week. That also costs a lot of money to do that. You also got to remember, and I've brought this up, you have Monday on the road, you have Friday on the road. Now you would be adding a third show, not even counting PLE weeks, which this weekend is. So there's a lot. I mean, this is a heavy week for the crew. This is a very heavy week for the crew. You got a live Raw Monday. You have a live Tuesday show. You have a live Friday show. And you are doing what's become a pretty big pay-per-view event now on Saturday. This is as busy as it gets. There's going to be a lot of tired people at the end of this week for WWE. I don't think NXT will remain on the road on a regular basis, but I could see them loading up shows, branding a show. They've done Super Tuesday in the past. They've done Halloween Havoc. They've done, and they've done Great American Bash. They've done these things. They've done, Valentine, Vengeance Day, all that stuff. New Year's Evil. So for the ones that aren't PLEs, I think they could end up taking those on the road. But what are the big changes? I think you just want the show to look refreshed. And look, I said it costs money. They're getting paid more money for NXT to be on the CW network. So there's more money to invest if you want to think of it that way. I think like I said, I'm more interested to see what it looks like in Orlando in 2 weeks. How do they keep that fresh? Does that matter? I've asked that question. Do you care? Do you care that NXT is in the same place basically every week? Does it affect how you look at the show? I've talked to a lot of people in the last week, and I've seen opinions on NXT that I have been interested in getting because I look at the ratings, and Shawn even mentioned that they're up 15% in the advertising demos that they want. Last week, as was reported, the top 4 entertainment shows, so not sports, were all wrestling last week. Raw, NXT, Dynamite, and SmackDown. So wrestling right now is doing quite well across the board. And yeah, go ahead, pick apart ratings. You can do that. You can look at the numbers. You can look at Raw being down because of Monday Night Football. You can look at AEW being down year over year. You can look at SmackDown, which will not reach the same audience that it did with Fox. But they're entertainment shows. And they're entertainment shows that are about trying to be as live-proof as possible. They have a lot of value in being somewhat live-proof. And because they're not being paid for always at the level of sports, and they're not being paid for at the level of sports, while obviously the Raw deal's big for Netflix and SmackDown, and if AEW gets the money that's rumored, it's all solid, but it's not at the level of sports. So you're getting top-tier programming in terms of where it finishes at a lesser value, and that's why there's this kind of money being thrown around right now. That's why NXT is getting paid to be on CW. That's why AEW is working their way towards very likely announcing a strong television deal and streaming deal. How do you keep that up, though? It's funny because I've seen people talk about how great NXT is. There are people that I can tell love NXT. They're invested in the characters. They like the, at times, campiness of it. They like that it can be a variety show at times. I think people have gotten into some of the younger wrestlers, and I do wonder if that's a good thing, maybe something that is telling. There are people that are willing to overlook the fact that there are less than stellar matches or performances. I watched a clip yesterday of the run-in that Jada Parker did on Fatal Attraction. And I was surprised that the clip went up the way it did because there are 2 very clear, unfortunate botches that happen. And that happens, but they happen back to back. She was knocking a couple people over the top rope, and it wasn't clean. And let me tell you something right now. Run-ins with fights and stuff like that, they don't always have to be clean. But it was very clear that the way a couple people were supposed to go over the top rope didn't happen. And they left it in. Whatever. It's a fight. It's a run-in. But that stuff happens. And it happens on a fairly regular basis. there's the people that go way over in one direction when they go like, oh, they're cooking and this is great, and Chef Michaels, and they overlook stuff. And you know what? If they're enjoying the product, that's fine. People watch in different ways. And then there are people on the other side of things going, oh my God, this place is a botch fest, and they mess things up. And there's probably the general fan is somewhere in the middle of that. If you are enjoying the show, and I'll throw this out to those that are watching live, why do you enjoy NXT? What makes the show for you? What makes the show for you? And what turns you off to the show? Nerdy Dude said, for me personally, it's more about in-ring program than rather the look of it as it relates to changing the set and being at the Performance Center. Phil said, agreed. I think the only time was a problem being at Full Sail was when they were head-to-head with AEW. Yeah, that's understandable. I like watching, I think Trick is a standout performer on that show. I had a conversation yesterday on Busted Open about the different iterations of NXT, which we talked about here last week. And I said, when they went to 2.0 and I was working there, we were all kind of going like, what is this? Who are some of these people? Because it went from, the old black and gold era, and you knew a lot of these people, to all of a sudden, hey, remember all those guys that did security for the Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly segment? They're all wrestling now. They're all wrestling characters. Here they all are. Go back and look at that segment. There's the Creeds. I think Trick's in there. Like, it's just a lineup. I think Braun's in there. And that's what you did. That's normal wrestling dues paying. You do, quote, security. You see it now. You see people get thrown around on Raw or SmackDown or whatever. The real security are the real big guys wearing suits that protect Jey Uso when he goes in the crowd. If they're wearing those black security shirts, they're extras who are going to get beat up by a wrestler. And that's what NXT had, some of the wrestlers do before they were put on TV. But I remember seeing Trick Williams for the first time and going, who's that guy? They put him with Mello. Oh, he can talk. There's a magnetism there. I want to know more about him. And we see where Trick is now. And I fully believe that tomorrow night, I should say, it is a night for Trick Williams. It is a night to have a big premiere in Chicago with Chicago's favorite son, CM Punk, being there at the end of the show to raise Trick Williams' hand to begin the new era of NXT on CW with the second reign of Trick Williams as the NXT champion. It's not a bad thing. They'll make it dramatic. Punk will get in Paige's face and all that stuff and back and forth. Paige will try to cheat. And by the way, I'm saying this and it sounds formulaic. Not a bad thing. If I had to read the tea leaves here based on what's been announced, Roxanne Julia opening the show, I could see Roxanne escaping that one because you have Stephanie Vaquer, and I think they're going to, I don't want to say schmaz finish, but I don't see Julia beating Roxanne. But I do see Trick beating Ethan Page. And you get the beautiful moment that they want of CM Punk raising Trick's hand as the new NXT champion, standing tall to end the show. And they'll set up stuff for next week as well. Now, in terms of the bells and whistles, I think you'll see people who have made their name in NXT at some point in their careers show up tomorrow night. Even if they're in the crowd. I could see Mello on NXT tomorrow night. Some kind of quick interaction with him and Trick, knowing their history. I could see like a Bayley showing up tomorrow night. Just to have her there. To have some kind of confrontation. To have a whatever. That kind of stuff I think will happen tomorrow night. I think you'll see some legends in attendance. That's what I think by the bells and whistles. And they've done this before. And they'll do it again next week, without a doubt. Obviously, we know Orton, Javon Evans is on that show. and the tag team title match is on that show with Theory and Waller, but it's also going head-to-head with AEW next Tuesday, just based on scheduling. So I expect tomorrow night's debut on CW to set up some big things in addition to what's already announced for next week's show, because they want to win that. Of course they want to win that. Now, a rarity in this day and age for WWE is that they had to move to a smaller venue, and they are not selling tickets at a high level for next week's show. Call that what you will about Randy Orton or the St. Louis area as a whole. I don't really know. It's an anomaly right now that they're not selling tickets somewhere, because regardless of what they're presenting, and obviously a lot of it is hot right now, they're moving tickets. The brand is hot, and sometimes that just the reputation of the brand is enough. The reputation of the company is enough. So I do think they'll throw a lot at us the next 2 weeks. Let's see what week 3 looks like, though. And as it relates to how NXT can connect to the other shows, that brings us to a brand new segment. Matt Books. Pencil scribbling. We're working on it. I just thought of it today. So what I'd like to do, and I don't think I'll do this on any regular schedule, is basically take a concept that is announced, take a concept that is already going on, and we do this a lot anyway, but basically book it myself. So, and I'd love to have your suggestions. Leave them in the comments, whether you're watching live, whether you're listening on the Believe Network for the podcast, whether you're watching after the fact here at the WrestlingNetShow.com. Leave them in the comments. What would you like me to try my hand at booking? Could be a current storyline. Could be a future storyline. Could be a suggestion from you. Could be something that's already announced. And that's what I'm going to tackle today. I'm going to book AJ Styles' return to SmackDown. So it was announced last Friday, AJ Styles will be returning to SmackDown. He has worked some live events. AJ's year has been star-studded, although not that busy. Was in the Fatal 4-Way at the Royal Rumble for Roman Reigns' championship. Found himself embroiled in a feud with LA Knight, which he lost at WrestleMania, and then would go on to defeat him to get him his opportunity at Cody Rhodes at Backlash. A match that somewhat touched on their history, shared history of how they got to WWE, what they did with Bullet Club in Japan and all that stuff, but was respectful for the most part, leading to a fantastic match in France with a great crowd that was never in question in terms of the results. Cody's first defense of the WWE Championship. They would get away from that for a month because Cody would take a detour for the Saudi show and take on Logan Paul, with AJ pleading to Nick Aldis about he won another shot. This would obviously lead to the AJ Styles fake retirement angle, which Cody bit and fell for, hook, line, and sinker. And you get more of a full-fledged AJ turn with Gallows and Anderson actually by his side, leading to the rematch and another victory for Cody Rhodes. And that's pretty much been it for AJ. Now, he's worked some live events recently, but he's being announced as coming back to SmackDown. I think we have long past any serious interest in the OC or the club or whatever the hell you want to call it of having Gallows and Anderson with AJ. And they seem to be more NXT guys these days anyway. Michin's on her own. We know, the affiliation's more loose. And AJ was kind of pushing back on them and then decided with that. I think at this point in his career, and it happens to a lot of legends, people want to cheer AJ Styles. People don't want to boo AJ Styles. AJ Styles has always been a spectacular wrestler. AJ Styles has the kind of matches you get excited for, even at this age. He's still performing at a high level. That's why he gave Cody Rhodes 2 great matches. And Cody was right there with him. So I don't think that AJ Styles needs to come back to SmackDown as a heel. And in fact, I think that him being away for a few months is, you announce someone with the career of AJ Styles, the Hall of Fame career of AJ Styles coming back to SmackDown. To me, you're doing so with the idea and belief he'll get a pop, and he will. See if he brings his old music back. And that will be a tell as well. I would have AJ lean into what I think will be a babyface pop. Let him get his cheers on Friday. Let him talk about his year, his ups and downs, his championship aspirations. I would have him lean into talking about a fire that never dies. He could even indicate that, sure, he might be on the back end of his career, but he's still got a lot left in his tank. He still has the fire, the burning desire to be champion once again. Because people said he'd never make it to WWE, and he did. And people said he would never be in a WrestleMania. And he's got one of the best WrestleMania resumes out there. It's as wild as it can be. And people never said he would never be WWE champion. He's done that before multiple times. And he wants to do it again. And he understands that being away means he's going to have to fight his way back there. And he's willing to do that. Because I could see what the landscape is right now in WWE, and it's as competitive as ever. And who better to face competition than the phenomenal AJ Styles? Nick Aldis, you line him up, I'll knock him down. And before he can say anything else, he is interrupted by who will be on Friday, the former NXT champion, all ego, Ethan Page. It's almost too easy to put a veteran, beloved AJ Styles out in the ring, cutting a very obvious but endearing babyface promo about wanting to be champion again and playing to the crowd and knowing that the crowd is always going to have a spot for AJ Styles, and if he just leans into being a babyface, they'll be behind him. And Ethan Page you've just handed him a plateful of ammunition that he can now use. Oh, AJ, we know. You're phenomenal. You have beautiful hair. All these fans love you. They've watched your whole career, blah, blah, blah. Enough. Enough of this. It's bad enough I had to deal with Shawn Michaels trying to live his career again through all these wrestlers that people love in that godforsaken city of Orlando, Florida. But now I got to show up here on SmackDown and hear it from you too? For those that don't know, I'm Ethan Page. I showed up on NXT and I became NXT champion. CM Punk had to come referee a match to make sure I didn't remain NXT champion. But you know what? I've done what I've needed to do in NXT. And now I'm here on SmackDown. And I am not letting AJ Styles put himself in front of me on SmackDown. AJ, what have you done lately? What have you won lately? Go ahead, I'll wait. You know what I've done? I walked right into that performance center. I walked right into NXT, and in less than 2 months, I became NXT champion. Nobody in WWE history can say they did that. Talk about the journey it took for you to get here. I did that too. I'm not whining and complaining about it. I'm not taking people on a history lesson they don't care about. I make history. That's what I do. I let other people talk about me. WWE wanted me. They got me. NXT wanted me. They got me. The NXT universe may have not liked me, but they had to accept me as their NXT champion. And now, guess what, everybody? SmackDown wanted me. That's right. Nick Aldis has signed me, All Ego Ethan Page, to an exclusive SmackDown contract. And that's where AJ can go back at him. Yeah, I heard of you. You're good. It's impressive what you did. NXT is full of young, hungry superstars. And you walked right in there and you became NXT champion. You kind of just fell on a guy, but you became NXT champion. Hey, by the way, how did Tuesday go for you? Ooh, shot of Page pissed off, peering through his glasses. Kid, I'll tell you something. I've been in your spot before. I respect what you're doing right now. You might not be telling it to the people, but you're showing me respect because you're making your debut on my time. You want to be out here with the phenomenal AJ Styles. It's a smart move. But can you back it up? Can you all ego step to AJ Styles? Here you go. I'm ready to fight right now. Take your little suit off with the pants that apparently didn't get finished. Go get in your gear. Let's go. Nick Aldis, make it happen. Let me take on SmackDown's new superstar. Page begs off. AJ will do it on my time. I don't just show up here and wrestle when you say I do. It's part of my contract. Nick Aldis will make sure that this match is promoted accordingly. That the wonderful people at the USA Network get to see All Ego Ethan Page, the new face of SmackDown, in all its glory. And AJ says, all right, that's fine. Nick Aldis, make that match happen. I'll be ready. Oh, and Ethan, one more thing. You might be the new face of SmackDown, but this place has always been the house that AJ Styles built. And we're off and running. A veteran in AJ Styles, an up-and-comer in Ethan Page, who, as I have said, has been clearly confident and comfortable since walking onto NXT for the very first time. He's been a great representation of NXT as a champion and as WWE as a whole. For a guy who has never gotten this level of opportunity as a champion, as a main eventer on the brand he's on, as a representative of the company and all the media he's doing, you would never know it. I have been supremely impressed by Ethan Page stepping into the role that he has stepped into, performing at the level he's performed at. The guy's on a NASCAR already. Now, you might say that and go, hey, hold on a second. He's already on a CW NXT. It's 1 week. He could stay down there. I'm not saying he's definitely going to come to SmackDown. It's just how I would book it, because I think it addresses a problem that I talked about last week, which you can go watch at thewrestlingmatshow.com. There is a gap between the main event, which obviously is very hot with Cody and Roman, and the rest of the show. I think SmackDown is bottom heavy right now. I think there is a massive gap between what is really drawing for the show, which is the Cody and Roman stuff, and everything else. Now, look, shows can be, and SmackDown has been and will be for at least a little while, carried by Cody and Roman. I would totally understand if everybody's okay with that. But, because I know Cody and Roman's a big draw, and as I always talk about, you splice you sprinkle your main eventers throughout the show. You promote accordingly. They make appearances, whatever. You keep people locked in for them. It's what you do. That's Pro Wrestling 101. You push your big stars. You push your big stars everywhere on the show. They're the main characters. But you need to build other things up underneath. Right away, you would have AJ and Ethan Page filling that gap. I believe so. You would have AJ Styles and his cachet and his pre-existing connection with the fans and name value now attached to someone who I think can fill a lot of time in a quality way via mic skills, matches, segments, whatever. And it opens up the door for Ethan Page to start to establish himself as a big-time heel on SmackDown. And I think there are a lot of heel spots open right now on SmackDown because the Bloodline's all together. That's its own thing. Is there a KO heel turn coming? Is there a Randy heel turn coming? Sure, that's in play. Mello, I guess, is a heel. We're far off from him being where he would be looked at as a big credible threat. He's just not there yet. Andrade seems to be a babyface right now. Once again, not super hot, even though I get it. They're putting on good matches. LA Knight's a babyface. There's a gap there. There's an opening for a heel. And I think Ethan Page can fill that hole. Now, I'll address some things that are being said here in the comments. Nerdy Dude, I really enjoy your fantasy, Matt, but I disagree with you. I would book AJ slowly but surely back to the main event scene and maybe have him do a triple threat match between KO and Randy for the number one contender spot. And you know what? You could do that. And maybe he loses. And then that's the way you bring Ethan Page in. Sure, you could do that. All I would say is AJ's done it before, and I think AJ now, at this point in his career, might be better used to get someone like an Ethan Page introduced to SmackDown and get him over. I think that's more important than pushing AJ back to the main event scene. Now, both of those things can happen. AJ could be, back. He doesn't win. So he's down on his luck, and that's where Ethan Page goes, lost another big one, huh? Like, that's another way to do it. There's no doubt about it. I would just kind of strike while the iron is hot with Ethan Page. when there is an obvious opening, and you have him coming off of TV on Tuesday, and immediately after losing, he shows up on SmackDown, almost wiping that away. Because you've already done Trick and Ethan once. Trick beat him once. Now you're going to do it again with Trick winning, theoretically, tomorrow night. I don't see Ethan Page having a reason to stick around. And if you have him debut on Friday, you have him twice in a week. You've already had him rub elbows with Trick Williams and, more importantly, CM Punk on a premiere show that should do well. It's almost like it's a soft introduction to him coming to SmackDown. Because he's getting a lot of media and he's doing a lot of press and he's getting more attention than he normally would. So there's a pre-existing notion of who he is, especially if it's only 3 days later he shows up on SmackDown. Now, Nerdy Dude brings up a point here that I haven't talked about a lot, but I have basically expected. What if Drew interferes in the Trick match? Because it's kind of wild to me that CM Punk has shown up on NXT the last 2 weeks, and there has been no Drew McIntyre. Like, it was announced 2 weeks ago that Punk would be on NXT. And then, of course, if I had to guess, because he didn't come out with the live crowd last week, they shot a bunch of those extra segments. I don't think he was there back-to-back weeks. He might have been. But it seemed like they found ways to get him in the mix of the show last week just to keep him on, whatever. But Drew not showing up 2 weeks in a row, knowing Punk is there, is surprising to me. But I'm with you. I think we're going to see Drew McIntyre tomorrow night. There's another bell and whistle that Shawn. Why wouldn't Drew McIntyre, and by the way, Punk and Drew are both on Raw tonight. Why wouldn't Drew show up? And I think that adds some juice to their feud, because tonight is theoretically the last time we see Drew and Punk until this weekend on Raw. Why wouldn't that carry into tomorrow night? Like, whatever they do tonight, Drew is theoretically done in terms of appearances. Tomorrow night tells me, what if Drew attacked Punk during the match and there's no referee and Trick's about to win or Ethan's about to win and then another ref has to come? What if it's another special guest referee who's available? There's your bells and whistles. There's almost your mini WrestleMania moment, right, for Trick? You have another legend run out as a referee after, Drew and Punk got involved in his match. Much like Cody had all those legends get involved. You could do something like that. You could do a mini version of that. And there would be more juice for Trick. Ethan could have something to bitch about. And you push Drew and Punk that much more. NXT and CW get Drew and Punk on their programming. Trick gets a moment. Ethan's got an out. You keep building towards Bad Blood. Makes total sense to me. It would be a big talking point. There would be a lot to that. Nerdy Dude said, imagine we get Trick instead of Ethan. Look, it's possible. If Trick doesn't win, maybe he does move on. That's the thing. If Trick loses, it's almost like he'd have to move up, even though I don't think I would do it just yet. I think there's enough baby faces right now that are hot. I would save that. I would save him. Hopefully you liked Matt Books. Let's do more of that in the future. Leave your thoughts on what you'd like me to book, what's currently going on, maybe something that could be going on, or something completely different. Let us know in the comments section. What would you like me to book? Let's talk about Swerve and his comments on AEW and Fox. So I more just want to give you my perspective on this and not make it seem like it's all this news. Swerve and the rapper Flash Garments, who I saw at Grand Slam over the week, ended up at a sneaker con in Brooklyn, and Mosh was there with Swerve's new sneakers. If you don't Mosh, he does all the great custom sneakers. He just put out new golf shoes. Mosh is the best. I have Mosh shoes in various places around here. They were up there at some point. But Swerve was around the area and ended up on a YouTube vlog from the person Queen's Flip. And he's talking about some kind of influencer collab, whatever. And it gets caught on camera, and he says, we're about to move. We're about to get on Fox. SmackDown is leaving Fox, and then we're taking Fox. TNT, TBS, and Fox. We got all three of them things. Tony Khan lets me do whatever the F I want. And he owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's kind of pitching to do something. And people took that as, it's done. Or they're going to Fox, or they're going to Fox Network. Now, here's what I'll say. I don't think this is a confirmation of anything, nor should it be. I think it's Swerve trying to pitch somebody to work with him. And Swerve is pretty smart about that. Swerve has his ear to the ground. He is very aware of what's going on in the world and social media and different things he could bring to the table. And I appreciate that about Swerve. Happy birthday to Swerve, by the way. Now, people say, Fox. Fox is a very big thing. I didn't take it as him going, we're going to be on Fox, as in we're going to go to the network Fox. The broad, the big Fox that has football on Sundays and college football on Sundays. No, I took it as AEW, as I've always taken it, could end up somewhere in the Fox family. More likely FS1. Which is not a bad thing. I don't think. Friday, they have college football. Saturday, they have college football. Sunday, they have the NFL. I don't think they're going to throw AEW into that. Now, it could fit somewhere else, not on Fox. It could fit on FS1. It could fit on a different night. I don't know what that show would be, if it's Shockwave or whatever. But Swerve, at bare minimum, has heard what everybody else has heard about the rumors of them going to Fox. Now, he also works with Tony Khan and may know more than that. And who knows if this conversation was supposed to be caught or not. But I don't want people to jump to the conclusion, at least I don't think they should, that AEW is going right to Fox. They're going to be on that Friday nights. It's good fodder. I get it. A top star in the company is talking about something that we're all talking about. I totally understand. There are wrestling people still at Fox. I don't know if WWE hit the levels that Fox wanted. I don't know that. I don't know how good or bad that relationship was. I know at times that has ups and downs. I don't know how it was at the end. But I do know that right now, wrestling is attractive to have. And that sometimes when the biggest company is doing big numbers, it's a trickle-down effect. And as I said, the top 4 entertainment shows last week were all wrestling. 3 of them were WWE, but AEW did have Wednesday night. So there is, like in a lot of things in sports entertainment, a copycat effect of, well, it's working, we want a piece of it. It's hot right now. Wrestling is hot right now. We want a piece of that. We still want a piece of that. And perhaps that is why ongoing conversations are taking place. So that's a good, just the fact that it's being talked about is a good thing. I don't know if they're going to end up on any Fox station. If I had to guess, it would be FS1. If I had to guess. But it's good to diversify your portfolio. I was told and taught that many times at WWE. We would like to work with a lot of different places because you don't know how the relationships are going to go. They're going to go up. They're going to go down. Networks will get stronger. They'll get weaker. They'll have issues. We'll have issues. Whatever it may be, it's good to be in bed with multiple partners. You're not locked into just one thing. It's good for AEW if they are potentially going to end up on a station outside of Warner Brothers, Turner, Discovery, whatever the hell it's called. So I wouldn't go overboard in what Swerve said, but it's a positive for wrestling fans. I would love to answer right now, in the last few minutes left. And by the way, if you are watching live as a member, we're going to have another stream right after this. It's a new stream altogether, heading into Mr. McMahon episodes 4 through 6. So that'll be a live stream after that. If you are watching after the fact, you're watching in the normal 1 o'clock time slot or whenever you want at thewrestlingmatchshow.com or listening to podcast form. Don't worry. There's still plenty more to come this week. We'll be with you 1 p.m. Eastern every single day this week, whether you're a member or not. But I wanted to look at, in the last few minutes of this episode, comments I got on various YouTube clips we have put up. Let's go to the top 5 wrestlers of the year so far. Brenante Thompson says, you can't possibly say that Cody is in top 5. That's just hate. That's the only comment I got about Cody Rhodes. That's the only thing someone has mentioned to me about Cody Rhodes on our various social media platforms about not being in the top 5. Maybe one other one on Instagram. I did expect more people to bring up Cody, and they didn't. I had a whole discussion about his title reign on Busted Open yesterday. I graded it a B-, not because of Cody, because of the booking. I think Cody, for the first 4 months of the year, was absolutely a top 5 wrestler. I just don't think the title reign has been that exciting. He's a good champion. I don't think he's been given a lot to work with. We did a video clip here on the shift in WWE creative as of late has made the product better. Goran says, the ratings went up because more kids are watching. Maybe not an easy thing to necessarily track. Martin says, creative can actually do more with talent, discuss, and examine stuff they want to try out because Triple H knows his wrestlers actually know the crowd and play into it. Yes, I think Triple H has more respect for the talent than Vince did in terms of their ideas and listening to them. So I agree with that. Nikki says, over the last couple of years, Vince lost his touch. Triple H not doing any better, putting their faith in the wrong guy, Roman. You could say a lot about Vince. You can say that Roman wasn't booked like he should have been early on. But the last 4 years, Roman has been exactly who he should be and exactly what the company needed. I don't think it's about losing your touch as it relates to Roman. There might be other things, certainly. And you could also argue, well, maybe Roman's got a lot more say in his creative, as does Paul Heyman. And maybe they've been able to take things in the direction that they've wanted. Absolutely. But I don't think that's Triple H not doing any better and being at all connected to Roman. Listen, you might not like Roman, and I understand that. I know he's bored people, and they're tired of him. That is not the majority. The majority was calling for Roman Reigns a month after he was gone. And now they're getting him as a babyface. M. Valley says, I think creative is slacking big time lately. Didn't give a reason why. Interesting perspective. I wanted to just give you kind of a full range of what we're reading here. On our video, on our post about the end of NXT on USA, Snark says, NXT is currently 99% hot garbage. If that was their goal, then mission accomplished. As I said, I have seen people say, I don't like NXT. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, said, I can't take the acting on NXT. It is still developmental. I do believe it lives in its own universe. It can be a bit much sometimes. From our conversation about the real main event of Bad Blood, Majin says, I think the main event match will be what is most talked about after the match is over. I don't see that being Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns coexisting mini-story. There wasn't much build since Roman was out since April. Yes, there is history with Cody's feud with Roman, but Drew Punk has been building since Survivor Series pretty consistently. I believe Hell in a Cell match main event's Bad Blood. If they decide to bring back thumbtacks for the match, it will be one of the most talked about things, considering Ronda wanted to do thumbtacks in one of her matches, but she was declined due to it being banned. That is different, yes. Interesting way to think about it. What will we talked about more? I do think there will be blood. I don't know how there will be blood. I don't know if it necessarily will be thumbtacks or just hard ways or whatever it's going to be. That is an interesting way of thinking about it. And I don't know what match will be talked about more. We had our conversation about Cody, that's their team name, Rody. Cody and Roma being cinema. Personally, this is a breezy. Thought it was lame as AF. Not sure why the hype around it, to each their own, though, is more cringe than cinema. Just my perspective. WWE2K Universe said cinema. This new direction with the company, with how they present their wrestlers in the modern age, a breath of fresh air. It may not always be a hit, but man, when it does, it feels like crack sometimes. And ZZ2 says it was indeed cinema. So differing opinions on that. I can understand why people said it was cringe. I will continue to say I think it built to a lot more. And I also think it was WWE promoting and flexing their creative muscle, or more so their production muscle. I think a lot of people will see that and be in awe of it. But it is not for everybody. What could be for everybody is being a member. You can do so at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. Join down below. And by the way, if you're a member, stay tuned. We're starting up another stream in a matter of minutes for members only. We're going to do the Mr. McMahon Netflix docu-series, Part 2, episodes 4 through 6. That is coming your way. Format members live at noon Eastern. And if you want to check that out and you don't catch it live, become a member at thewrestlingmatchshow.com. You'll have access to all that, including tomorrow night's watch party of NXT. Not Raw tonight, NXT tomorrow night. So thank you to everybody. Go to ProWrestlingTees.com/TheWrestlingMat for your merch. If you're a member, come on and head over to the Mr. McMahon Netflix doc stream for everybody else. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about wrestling even more right here on The Wrestling